Here's the question. How do you make the impossible possible? Simple. Remove the I am, the ego. Now, how do you step into that newfound possibility? With a series of small intentional steps. Never forget, the greatest among us started from humble beginnings. But to truly unlock your potential, realize you're here for something greater. If you're yearning for more than just a good life, let's take that small step together to reach greatness. Welcome to the Greatness from Small Beginnings podcast, where we're talking to those who have gone from mediocrity to motivated, overlooked to overachieving, forgettable to unforgettable. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome back to Greatness from Small Beginnings and the stories that talk about greatness from small beginnings. Thank you for tuning back in. I know my listenership is low, but I appreciate those that do listen. And man, it's a privilege to talk to you every week. So I'm gonna do a redo on something. Last week, or was it at least week before last? Yeah, I was at a top contractor school, a retreat, and I did a 30-minute talk. And honestly, I don't think I did that well. I didn't know how it landed. I got some feedback from somebody, and I was a little off point, distracted, and I don't think I closed up well. My opening story may have been fine, but anyway, I could have done better. But I actually prefer this format where we can take rabbit trails and all of that. And those speeches from the stage are, they're not that I'm like nervous because I'm standing up there. I'm just nervous, of course, that I'm going to miss something. And so I was watching my notes and actually probably spoke too slowly and not confidently enough in what I was saying. And there was some other feedback that I got that was it was frustrating to hear it, of course, but not because I didn't need to hear it. And anyway, I am going to redo part of that today. I'm going to tell the opening story and some of the closing notes, and then some of the stuff in between in more of a podcast. I'm just monologue style, in which I like better anyway. With that said, I do bring up greatness. I do bring up small beginnings in this as part of the story and different things. And that's what we're all about, is we, as in me and the producer of this and those around me in my company and those around me in my life, that we all want to do better. We all want to find the greatness God has for us. He put us on this world to not be average, but to do something amazing, to be something amazing. So then we can do something amazing. And amazing means great. His greatness. So that being said, bear with me. For coming up on 3 weeks now, I've had this cold cough. It's the longest it's ever lasted in my life. And I don't feel like it's beat me completely down, although I have not felt well, but I've kept doing everything I normally do, which is, of course, maybe courageous in one way. But boy, perhaps if I'd have gotten more rest, I'd have kicked it already. I'm not sure. But I'm preparing for a 50-mile or a 32-mile, 50K, 32-mile race in a few weeks. And I missed some of the training because I was out of town with my entire company this last week. And I was not doing well with this whole cold thing, and it felt terrible, and was taking NyQuil and Dayquil and all the medicine to kind of keep my nose clear so I could stay engaged with the team. And I've come home today, and I finally took a run. I came home a couple of days ago. Finally took a run this morning, 7 miles, which is less than I wanted to have in my training program, but because I haven't run in a week, it didn't make sense to me to up my training program like I normally would have. So I would have gone probably 16 miles, at least 14, but probably 16 miles. And today I think it was better that I did 7. And I actually did really well, made reasonable time. Felt pretty good during. But when I got back, oh, my lungs were burning because I had a cough. So I'm going to sit here and eat cough drops during it. So all that being said, my goodness, I've already wasted a bunch of time. So I'm going to get on with the program here. So here's the story. I'm driving on Highway 6, which is a highway between Portland, actually Hillsborough, and Tillamook County. And I'm driving in my dad's 1980 Nissan pickup that he had bought 17 years earlier. I've been on the highway probably 20 times in the last month or so. I'd already gone over the pass, and I was down on a little flatter section, though there was a lot of tall trees and lots of shade. I was not down to where I could view the river yet, another 5 to 10 minutes away from that. But it was flatter, straighter, and was cruising along, and all of a sudden the truck chugs. Oh no, now what? And then it chugs again. And then it chugs again. And then straightens up for a little while, 30 seconds or so, and then chugs again. And my automatic response was, oh Lord, help me decide what to do with this truck. And then the additional thoughts are, I don't know if it's going to make it through the week, much less the whole summer. And this is the middle, and this is maybe July. And I didn't know what to do. Like, man, I don't want to spend money on another truck, but I want to be, a faithful, good, sensitive guy to God and be a good steward of what God's given me and all of those things. And here I am wondering, what do I do with this truck? So I'm driving along, and it chugs again. And I ask the question again, Lord, what should I do about this truck? And he says to me loud and clear as it chugs again, and this truck, it's blown apart. Like it's rough. It's really rough. The pillow seat, the pillow is sitting in the seat, a pillow, like from the couch, is sitting in the seat because the seat's so blown down and all that. And so this is just gives you a picture of what the truck's like. Another sideline to the story is several months earlier, there was a guy that came to our church, and he did a conversation with us. It was a full day, a Friday night one time, a full day, and then preached on Sunday. And the conversation, the subject was God's love and what's our response to it. And his idea was, he loves me. Like, he has built this relationship. Like, he loves me. And I love him because he first loved me. And he spent the whole weekend just developing this idea, which of course was great because full of scripture and his stories of all kinds of crazy stuff that happened to him and in the process, but talking about God's love. And then, of course, the response to that is that we then love others. It's an outward. So it's kind of an L-shaped thing. Me and God, he loves me. I love him because he first loved me. And then I love others. So this is what's going through my mind. I don't think the tape was playing. It had a cassette tape player, and the tape was terrible. I had to run it on almost full blast to be able to hear it. The tape was terrible of that event. But I had listened to it, I don't know if it was near 100 times, but it was a lot of times because I really wanted to understand the concepts, understand God's heart on the issue of how much he loved me, and then my response to that love. And so I'm thinking about this because to me, it was related to the truck. So it chugs again, of course. And I'm like, Lord, what do I do about this truck? And just as loud as if he had been having a conversation with me. It was audible, but I'm not sure it was actually audible. I don't really know. He says, do what you want. And I'm like, what? And he said, I love you. Do what you want. And then in that moment, it was as if my eyes became rivers, and I started bawling, like God just spoke to me. He said he loved me and that he trusted me to do what I want. amazing. And I'm bawling. I realized two things at that moment: that I need to wipe my eyes, and I'm doing 50 miles an hour or so, and I can't see a thing. So of course I pull over, uh, looking for a place to pull over. Once I'm wiping my eyes multiple times because I can't get it all out at one time, and more tears are coming because I had just heard God speak, and it was incredible. And so finally, just not very far up the road, I found a spot where the truck would barely fit, and I pull off into this shoulder, driving over Boston ferns and the other things that I was crushing as I got over, because it wasn't gravel, it was just a shoulder. The part near the road was gravel, but the other part was not. Thankfully, it was summer, so it was dry, and I could manage this. So I get pulled over, and my first thought is, I need to finish this conversation. And I said, Lord, what do you mean, do what I want? I didn't hear anything. So I'm like, I've never allowed myself to say, do what I want. I can't even think that way. Lord, I want to do what you want because I know your way is best. Your way is smarter, wiser, and more full and complete. But I don't have it in me to pull that off without your help. So do what I want is a concept I can't really abide with in the moment. And he says, listen to me. I love you. I trust you. You have been faithful to me. You have treated my name well, and you have treated my reputation well. The decision is not about your wants versus my will. Just love me as I have loved you, and stay faithful to me as you are already in the practice of doing. Wow. God said that. Yeah, he did. He did. And I wrote that in, like I'm reading it right now because I want to make sure I got it right. This is what I thought. This is what I remember hearing him say. This is 20 plus years ago. And I said, so I can finance a truck? Like, I don't feel like I should, but I can. And he says, again, do what you want. Conversation over. It was over. We were done. We were done. He was done talking. It was obvious for some reason we were done. I pull out, drive the other 30 minutes plus to Tillamook County where my crew was waiting for me, and I worked that day. Later on in that evening, I said in the talk, it's 6:47 and I'm almost home. Chugging all the way, of course. Just about to turn onto the road I live on. A mile and a quarter from home, give or take. And as I come around the corner, I see something. Caught my mind as I was going through, as what was going through my mind also, I was watching, was for about the 15th time on the way home, how am I going to tell my wife, Lillian, that God spoke to me and that tonight after dinner, we're going to go look for a truck because he said I could buy one. He said I could finance one. I was not really enjoying the idea of having that conversation with her. And yet here I am, almost home. But what I'd seen out of the corner of my eye was a little red car. Now I like red. It's part of the company colors. Dump trucks, we've painted them red, and we've bought red, and we've wrapped things red. And I saw this little red car. I'm like, oh, what's that? And so I whip it in. I whip it into the driveway. So I go to the door, find the keys. Oh, the whole time thinking also that I'm not sure I actually want a new truck. The last newer truck I had, it was almost brand new. It was very uncomfortable to drive. And 7 years earlier, I'd hurt myself in a car accident. And what I needed was a really comfortable seat. because I was driving a lot. I was driving Central Oregon, doing a bunch of work there. I was driving to the coast, 2 hours and 20 minutes away. The Central Oregon drive was often further than that. And we were just driving a lot, and I needed a comfortable seat. And I was imagining these seats in these new trucks just as not being really great for me. So I pull in, have the keys in my hand to this car, this red car, but it was a truck. Wait a minute. What in the world? It happened to be a 1980 El Camino. So it had a bed on it. I could carry stuff around, although not too much. But it was a car, and it in theory, rode smoother. So what do? I slide into the seat. The first thing I sense is, actually, this seat feels pretty comfortable. And then as I lean forward to put the key in the ignition, it was confirmed. Yeah, this is actually pretty comfortable. So I started it up, took it for a test drive, got up to 70 miles an hour or so on this windy section of highway that's right out in front of us, and then was forced to slow down for some corners that every winter takes out car after car. And I appreciated that because then I could feel how well it cornered and how comfortable it was during those too. By the time I brought it back and I parked it, I realized that what God had told me is to do what I want. And what he was saying is get what you actually need, that you're going to be hilarious over, that you're going to enjoy and rejoice and consider a miracle, an amazing miracle. If that's go to the dealership and buy a brand new truck, then that's what you do. If it's going to be something else, something with a comfortable seat, then do that. And to me, the concept just didn't translate. I just listened to a book the other day where the question was asked, are you a man of faith? And the person answered the question, oh, I think I'm more of a man of reason. And the person responding says, reason falls short of anything miraculous. And then what translated into my mind, especially in regards to this story and other things like this, is that if we can't see the miraculous, if we're people of reason, then we can take credit for what's happened because we've reasoned our way through it. We make the smartest decision. If it's a good decision, it works out. On the rare occasion that's not a good decision, it doesn't work out. No big deal. We move on. We take credit for fixing that, or we take credit for the good decision, all based on reason. If we're a people of faith, the subject of this talk was why faith is important in your business, but it isn't just business. I might grab a cough drop. Faith isn't just important in your business. It's important wherever you go. It's important if you work for someone, if you're number 2 or 3 or 10 or 50. The faith to see the miraculous in what's going on and how that company is providing for you and how God, in essence, has your best interest at heart. If we're all about reason, we tend to miss it. That being said, I bought that car the next day and I used it for many years in the business. And then my kids got it to drive to school. I ended up putting a new motor in it. And it was just the whole time it fit perfectly as the miracle that I needed. And that is one of the ways I apply faith to my business, is that in that way. I thought that was just very interesting and very cool. So why faith matters in your business. I'm going to scroll through some of my points that I made at this talk a few weeks ago. We as workers, we go in and we soldier on. And often we do it as we reason, as we go do the processes and procedures, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But if we can't have a heightened level of joy and peace and thrill, thankfulness and gratefulness, then I think we're missing the boat. And somehow we see that do the thing, go do it, and then do it again the next day, and then do it again the next day, as somehow we see that as getting us to our highest and best. And what I have discovered later in my life is that as we've been on this wave in business, and we've been on this wave emotionally up and down, and it's been crazy, I've realized that that is not highest and best, that we need to see the miracles of God for sure, and and put ourselves in essence in a place where we can't take the credit. So is it our highest and best to just do a rinse and repeat, to keep doing the same thing? Well, at times it teaches disciplines, and there's nothing wrong with that. But often we show with our actions and our attitudes that we don't actually have faith. We don't trust. We have fear instead. And I have dealt with some of that anxiety over the what ifs. And I am working this late stage in my life of saying, no, I got to stop that. I'm done with that. And often it's just a mindset, a something that I need to verbally say to myself. Number one, I need to be happy and grateful. I don't need to take the credit. I need to be a faith-driven guy, faith in God who put me on this earth to do something great and amazing. And then I need to do things, to go try things. God gave me the mind to see many of them now. He's going to, and then some of them are seeds to the greatness. I go plant seeds. They seem like the thing. And then he says, no, it's actually going to grow into this. And I need to continue to do those. So some of the other things that I mentioned in this talk that I think are really important about that faith was, how do we discover this God that wants us to understand him, that wants us to understand that he loves us, and that because he loves us, we should love him as he loved us, that we will love him as he loved us if we understand increasingly his love for us. So the place you can find that, what I said on that day, was in the Bible. That is the main place. And in fellowship with other people who are also looking in the Bible for its wisdom. Search for wisdom. Search for wisdom. Will you always find the principles of the biblical wisdom in the words you need to hear them? Will you always find them in the Bible? No, sometimes you'll find them somewhere else. But you could always, if they're that kind of wisdom, God's wisdom, you'll always be able to confirm them with that book, the scripture, the Bible. So I always encourage people that want to have a faith-driven business, a faith-driven life, to make sure you're spending time finding wisdom and finding it in the Bible. Biblical principles, biblical preachers, biblical input into our head that gets us to the right place. Here's a couple of quotes that I read that day, and it's regarding this idea, because all of us have gotten instruction. Literally, almost all of us have gotten some instruction from God. Okay. While ignoring the instructions you've been given, or only going part way and following that instruction, our minds drift from the safety that his wise counsel, the wisdom, had provided, and our physical actions so quickly follow. You just go and do as you always do. You find yourself in a strange kind of darkness. But then that darkness requires your attention. You have to go cut the darkness. You have to go try to find light to overtake the darkness instead of the light just being naturally in you that overtakes darkness. And then I said, dimming any opportunity the light may have had to overtake the darkness. So you need light to function. You need the light of your life. You find that in the Bible. You find that in others. You find that in the encouragement and admonition. In the case of this talk, I actually asked someone, what did you think? And some of what they said I knew already, because it's like, I don't think that landed very well. And they were gracious enough to be honest with me. So that's admonition, that's asking for critical feedback. But I go back to the scripture one of them I've heard a lot lately that I want to finish with. And then the statement at the end here. The scripture, look it up. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. I'll read it 2 more times. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Here's what I finished with. I gave everybody in the group a key. And what I said is, what I wanted to do was give you all a key to my house. Most of you haven't come out to Oregon, and most of you wouldn't. But if you ever did, you'd have a key to get into my house. But here's the problem, is that I rarely lock the house. And if we do lock it, we come in through the garage. And so I don't even know where the key is. So I went and picked a bunch of random keys up they were basically key blanks or mess ups. And I passed them out to the people with a company keychain on them, explaining that they're not key to my house, but they do allow you to get passage to my house. But the main reason I did it was that it was for this statement, that most people look for their keys with more passionate energy than they search for the wisdom that can change their lives. So I gave keys to people with this quote in mind. Let me read it one more time. Most people look for their keys with more passionate energy than they search for the wisdom that can change their lives. It's such a good way to sum things up. Passionate energy it's a word that I summed up for that retreat, for that time when I spoke. Is that's one thing I need to have for this year, is I need resolve in several areas of my life, and I need to live a passionate energy. So I'm determined more than ever to do that. Okay, that being said, I'm going to finish with what I always do here on Greatness from Small Beginnings. Zig Ziglar quote, "You were designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, and endowed with the seeds of greatness," which indeed you were. And then to call the action. That is kind of my tagline. Now go be great. It's a choice.